Our next speaker to discuss security validations of AI solutions from SecureIQLab in Texas, David Ellis.
So, quick wave introduction. I'm David Ellis, VP of Research and Corporate Relations. So, it's my job basically to interface with vendors, enterprises, and governments to understand what are the business use cases that our customers are looking to protect, and then figure out which technologies to test and what are the use cases to then test those technologies. In opening this up, I don't know how much y'all are aware of the fun times that are going on in the USA right now. Apparently Tylenol is in the news a lot. For security practitioners, I think this is a concern to us, because in another 20 years, if this whole Tylenol thing works out and there's less autistic people, we might face an even bigger gap in our needs for security practitioners. This is doubly concerning to me. Oh, we're getting there. This is doubly concerning to me because I also, in a side gig, I teach jiu-jitsu. And there's also a large population of autistic people in jiu-jitsu, myself included. And so looking forward into the future, it's interesting to see what ripple effects can occur as we try and fix one problem. We might be creating other problems in the future. With SecureIQLab, we're looking to solve the business use cases that our customers are dealing with now, and look forward to what they're doing in the future as well, and prepare them so that they're not caught with large exposure at large gaps. Now, in the market, we're familiar with Gartner, IDC, Forrester, et cetera, and we're familiar with traditional test labs and the approach they take. And where SecureIQLab fits in is that we're looking at the business use cases. What are businesses doing in order to accelerate their business? What do they need to protect in order to avoid not only issues with their availability, but also worry about compliance and regulatory issues that may result from security problems? Our approach to this is a collaborative approach. I've worked at other test labs where it was very much, hey, this is how we're doing it, take it or leave it. Not in a sense working with vendors in order to help the end user customers get the best results possible out of the products. I like the collaborative approach because it takes the strengths, the collective strengths of us, and can make something better through synergy. One of the things that we found in working in a collaborative approach is that through testing, we can help vendors demonstrate the return on their security investment that customers are making. In the past, the conversation a lot of times would end up talking about preventing risk and then also talking about ROI, or return on investment. The problem is when the security teams would go to the financial side to get the budget approved for purchasing security tools, and they would talk about risk and then return on investment separately, they would confuse the financial teams in terms of what's the benefit. But by going with a return on security investment approach, they're able to speak in a way which is similar to speaking in terms of an insurance against a likely event, which then the financial team can understand, use return on security investment to quantify the reward to risk, and justify in a dollar sense why this purchase for the security tool should be made. So now we're getting into discussing AI and how we look at the AI solution and security of AI. I was made the promise, or my boss made me promise, that I wouldn't talk about the Terminator, and I also wouldn't talk about jiu-jitsu during the course of this presentation. And I told him he could have one or the other, but I couldn't promise both, and that I can resist anything but temptation, so it might leak in a little bit. In terms of how we look at AI, AI inherently is going to involve a lot of unknown. It just by nature, it's designed in a way where we don't know exactly 100% of the time what it's going to do. So there's inherent risk with it. We're looking to help businesses manage their risk. As an AI security vendor, you can't stop your customers from doing stupid things. And the saying goes, as you build a better product, there's a better idiot being built on the side. So whatever we do, we need to find ways to put guardrails on AI such that we can help prevent a disaster that our customers have. So in terms of AI safety thresholds, where does the useful become dangerous? And then dual use concern, Alex talked about this earlier, in terms of can the AI that's within an environment be used for something, can it be used for bad purposes? Is it possible to, in a sense, turn the AI to the dark side and do things that could increase liability of the organization and not just data exposure? Then there's capability monitoring. Are we tracking what the AI actually does in production? Can we show what it will do? And then lastly, we look at it from an alignment to governance frameworks. There are regulations in the works and in existence that can have quite a stiff penalty should AI and its usage run afoul. And we want to make sure we can protect our customers from having issues there and resulting in significant financial loss. Some of the things that our research has found is that attacks that target AI are no longer theoretical. For the longest time, as LLM was starting, models were coming out, there was like, oh, okay, we could theoretically do this. Okay, well, very academic, but we've seen in the news problems, but we work with enterprises, and we've seen instances in very large enterprises that have otherwise mature security programs that others look to for guidance, and yet they still had issues with agents being manipulated within their environment for doing things they shouldn't and creating issues there. So in all this, one of the things that we find is useful is what a vendor does in protection, can it be mapped to a framework? Because this becomes very important with the compliance part of security, where they need to be able to show that they're in compliance to these different regulations and requirements for their industries. One thing that we're seeing is that as AI agents are being adopted, that they're being adopted at a much faster rate than they're being protected. That, like most technologies, unfortunately, AI is no different in that security at this stage is still a bit of an afterthought. And it's our role as a security industry to ensure that we're talking to our customers and educating them that as they're developing the AI agents and their usage, that they should also be baking in throughout the whole process security and not just be looking to lump it in at the end. So as we're working together, we can help guide our customers so that they don't make mistakes that they can't come back from or that are very hard to patch at the end. The urgency in validating AI security is it's pretty big at this point. AI has really developed a lot in the last half a year. I'm sure a lot of us have been playing around with like ChatGPT and Claude AI and seeing it go from effectively a nearly useless secretary level of aid, where I would say it's like asking an upset teenager to help you out, to a level where there's a degree of competency where it can, in my case, I'm not much of a coder, but I can get it to code basic programs to do things that I never would have imagined doing years ago. Another interesting thing in terms of AI validation is just the fact that as AI is being adopted at various speeds within various organizations, the usage of shadow AI, and what is our role then in terms of how do we find that and also help put guardrails on that. So we're finding that the AI vendors, they don't really know much about security. And the security vendors, as much as they know about AI, it's still growing so fast that it's hard for us collectively to stay up to date with everything that's happening. Because of this, we're seeing there's a lack of overall expertise in how to validate AI solutions. That was actually quite refreshing to see Alex's talk earlier in terms of the AI validation that they're doing. So to see that it's not just us going out about doing it, but that there's others in the industry that are looking ahead and seeing the issue here. We're also seeing that with multi-agents, the risk becomes greater, not just from a breach perspective, but from a resource-intensive perspective. And that if you're doing something in the cloud, if you have agents that run amok in like a cascading failure where they just positive feedback loop, it can be quite expensive to have something go wrong with multi-agent systems in how they work together. So all this in terms of the agency, the urgency is that there's a need to help the customers we work with validate their AI and their AI security such that they can not run afoul and not have issues with security gaps or compliance and regulatory issues. So Alex did quite a bit in terms of talking about some vulnerabilities and attack vectors and whatnot. I won't belabor this too much, but just those of you that are tuning in now and missed earlier, I'll cover at a high level. In what we're seeing in terms of like agent-to-agent communication exploits is that if there's insecure communication channels, you can get a bad actor, a threat actor, getting in between those and then causing issues. As well as when you're looking at the agent-to-agent communication, there could be a privilege escalation that's occurring. So are there lockdowns such that the one agent can't escalate privilege with another? Because if you have an agent that's compromised and then it's able to escalate privileges with another agent, now you're starting to have a lateral problem amongst the agents with the compromise. And this also gets into, you're starting looking at feedback loop race conditions, where if you have uncontrolled behaviors cascading from one agent to another interactions, once again, that can then be very expensive in terms of computational resources. In terms of other areas that we see that are interesting with the emerging attack vectors around AI is like the disinformation and the vulnerability discovery. In disinformation, you now can create a rather convincing videos, deepfake, et cetera, where that could be used in social engineering to get around other types of access controls. So what are the benefits of Gen AI security validation? Talked about some of the problems, but what are the benefits? So the obvious benefit is if your customers can trust what they're doing is secure, there's that peace of mind that comes with that. And it's hard to quantify the dollar value of peace of mind. But aside from that, when you've validated the security of an AI solution, you're going to have the ability to then trust in the results, that you're not going to have disinformation. You'll have confidentiality, you have integrity, and you'll have availability. As that trust increases, then the usage and adaptation by the employees will also increase, which in theory should enhance the businesses or our customers' capabilities. So with Gen AI validation, we're looking at basically two different paradigms of architecture. You've got the platform-dependent architecture, and then you've got the full-stack in-house architecture. So you got the giants like AT&T that have developed their own Gen AI, and then like for myself, I like Claude, I like ChatGPT. These are the ones that are platform-dependent. In our testing, we actually we validate across both platforms. So when looking at secure by design for multi-agent systems, we need to have control plane enforcement. And that is security policies that are enforced at the model and inference level and independent of upstream components. Because there's quite a few bits or parts that are part of an AI stack. And if you have you've got the inference layer protection, and then you've got other layers that you need to be looking at as well, such as you got to look at like API security as well because of the communication. Then you've got to look at the resiliency of the architecture, and then as you're doing all this, the validation checkpoints, pre-deployment, security assessment, runtime behavior monitoring, and continuous application verification. And then finally, there's the incident response and capability of testing. So our approach to AI testing started a couple years back, where philosophically we were trying to look ahead and see what was going to be a problem in the near future. And for us, Stefan had mentioned this earlier about the difficulty. When you run a test, one of the difficult things when you're doing a comparative testing is being able to test everything at the same time. Because a slight difference in how you're testing, depending on the samples that you're using, even just a few seconds difference, testing one versus testing another vendor with the same sample, could create an unfairness that results in just how interconnected the security industry has become, which is a good thing. It just makes it harder on the testers. So we found that even like a few seconds of lag between testing one product with certain types of attacks and testing the next one might benefit already from having some collective intelligence that the first one provides. And so being able to test everything in parallel was a feature that we needed for other products that we're testing. So in our SOC X Alpha platform, we've tested 11 WAF and API security vendors at the same time, and we're able to do that across thousands of attacks and multiple attack vectors. And so we're able to validate that the SOC X tool works in testing multiple platforms at the same time, and also then look at getting the data from those so we could demonstrate the results. It's one thing to say, hey, we've tested you, here's a 60%, 50%, 100%, but to be able to say, hey, we tested you, and now you can look at the video evidence, the PCAPs, and all the other data, so that the vendors that we test can get valuable information such that they can then improve their products from there, as well as dispute any of the attacks that we're running. So in terms of SOC X, it's being able to test everything at the same time when we're running a comparative test, keep costs down, scale, and then improve the speed at which we can test. All these things we were able to run and accomplish in the testing with the WAF vendors, and now we're applying it to AI. We've tested advanced cloud firewall with it, and also XDR solutions with this. In terms of what we've been able to accomplish just from a speed perspective, SOC X Alpha, we reduced the time for testing for when we ran the public test for the WAF vendors. It was a reduction by 40%. And maybe more important to that is that it reduced our overall cost for that test by 60%. And then lastly, which is the vendors like this the most, is that we were able to collect 100% of the artifacts and share that with the vendors that were participating in the test. So in terms of the architecture, we're starting off with infrastructure automation. Basically, we want to be able to provision an architecture that would be similar to what you'd find in enterprise environment. This includes elements such as basically, segmentation, different privileges for different users, create essentially an artificial copy of what we've seen in working with financial institutions. Then from there, we're looking at automating the tests, automating in terms of like provisioning the product, and finally, we're looking at the collection of the data, analysis of it all, and providing us with reports on the output so that it's minimal touch and there's less chance for an operator to create any error or bias in the testing. When we're looking at testing AI security solutions, we're looking at three basic use cases, where there's one where it's AI input, where it tells an operator, it tells a trader, hey, here's some information, consider using it. That's one type of use case. The second type of test case is where it's a co-pilot, where the computers support and then enable the traders to do more faster. And then the last use case, which probably has the risk and compliance officers the most puckered, is when it's just completely autonomous, where AI is making trades on behalf of humans, doing everything that it's programmed to do without supervision. In terms of having a structured validation process, we have to have this in order to establish consistent, measurable process that ensures AI systems, especially multi-agent ones, are functionally sound, secure, and resilient before they enter into production. The structured validation combines functional validation, ensuring that the AI does what it's supposed to do, with security validation to make sure that it can't be subverted or easily exploited. And this is integrated into continuous testing so that the reasoning and transparency and resiliency checks within a single repeatable framework are available to the end users. One of the things I think is interesting, coming from testing traditional security solutions like WAF, API security, XDR, advanced cloud firewalls, usually we're looking at just basic percentage blocked, percentage false positive. This, going into AI security metrics, looks like a course in statistics. So we're looking at these, and we're also looking at ways in order to now represent this to a typical customer. In the past, in writing up reports, I've pushed for putting in standard deviations and other statistical information calculations in the reports, and I've always been told by the marketing guys that, hey, nobody understands this stuff. So keep it to like very vanilla, basic statistics in terms of percentage block, percentage allowed. That's going to have to change in our reporting. It's got to get We have to find a way to educate our users to understand the next level of results that are going to be required in understanding AI security metrics. Lastly, as part of the metrics is the explainability, which basically can we explain how a model works? That's really important in certain regulated industries. For instance, in the financial space, it's a matter of a few months to even several years process in validating an AI agent and being able to explain what it can do. So if there's a way that a vendor can help do this quicker, then you're going to have an extremely impactful in a positive way output with your customer. You'll be ahead of the curve, essentially. In looking at performance for AI security solutions, one of the things we need to prepare our customers for is understanding the performance hit. We're looking at the latency for the throughput, ability to cache requests, there's load balancing requests and response. All these things come with a penalty of time. And so in that, understand that customers are looking to balance business and the speed of business, the ability to do business, and the impact that the security tools have on this with the benefit of mitigating risk. So if you can demonstrate that you can mitigate more risk than the business impact and cost of your tool, then you're ahead of the curve, and you can help them justify spending the money on your product. Now, as I said earlier, we like a collaborative approach. This is just one of the few areas that we're working on in terms of feedback from customers for the performance that they're looking at. I'm interested also at some point understanding what sort of performance factors and metrics are important to your customers as well. So please either find me afterwards, or if we have time for questions, I'd love to get feedback on that. All right. In terms of the Gen AI threat categories, we're looking at three basic areas right now, and of course, open to feedback. We are looking at the model security threats, data-related attacks, and then runtime security threats. We could go into this a little bit more if you want, but I think a lot of you know what these are, so I'll just state that in looking at these, one of the areas that we're focused on heavily is how to map these to frameworks like OWASP and also to MITRE ATT&CK. Particularly when it comes to compliance, the mapping is really important. So if vendors can demonstrate how their products map to certain frameworks, once again, that's a big help. That's going to reduce the friction of a sale within an organization. So at a high level, model security threats, you're looking at AI model integrity and confidentiality, and data-related attacks. This involves misusing sensitive information, or you could also think of like PII or RAG systems that are being compromised. Okay, this provides a little bit more detail in terms of the model security test cases that we're looking at. And once again, this is not a comprehensive list. In the interest of time, keep it a little more focused. But if there are areas that are particularly of concern to your customers, always interested in hearing about that, because we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs now and also in the future for your customers. Data-related attack tests. At the end, I'm going to have a little bit of a demo, which does some of the testing that we do. And essentially, with the data-related attack test cases, we're looking to see if we can escalate agency. We can, what's the handling of the outputs? Is there improper output handling? Can we get it to generate misinformation? Can we create, can we leverage signals to extract sensitive information? All these things are part of the data-related attack test cases. In the runtime security tests, we're looking to see if we can block unauthorized behavior. Can data that's stored be manipulated? Can we generate toxic or unsafe content? And does denial of service attacks, can those be used to disrupt the availability? So once again, when you're looking at security tools, we're looking at, can it help protect confidentiality, the integrity of the data, and then also the availability. All right. In here, we've got a demonstration. While building out the SOC platform, we basically have to do everything manually first. So in this case, we've got a little demo of some of the attacks being run manually. This is a baseline testing on a Gen AI that we're running on our platform. And in this one, we're going to watch first the testing of prompt injection, see if we can kick out some sensitive information. Can you guys all see that, or is it too small? Yeah, okay, good. Now, when we're running like the prompt injection in SOC X, we've got more than 300 at this case prompt injections that we're running while doing testing. So as we're trying to jailbreak here, convince the AI that it wants to give us the information. I don't know how many of you have tried doing this, but it's a fun little exercise to do. So at this point, we've convinced it, and I like to say it's being naughty. So with the next one, we're first asking just some simple questions to build up, and then when it finally does in terms of an improper output, you'll see a file, but what you don't see is that it actually ran it in a browser at that time, and that's what's going on here, where it's running in a browser and causing the issue there. So once again, that was run in the browser, and it did something it shouldn't do. It was being naughty again. So in this one, we're going to run various attacks and see if we can expose if we can get something good out of it as well. So you'll see it right away. It doesn't necessarily work, but we're going to do different iterations of it until we get what we're looking for. So Now we're looking at excessive agency. We're going to attempt various injections, so different iteration of the injection. And once again, this is just running with the guardrails of security that the generative AI has in place naturally. This doesn't have any security solution wrapped on top of it yet. So for us to demonstrate the value of the security solution, the first step is we have to run a baseline, so then we can show the delta with the security solution on top of it. So here we're looking at rag poisoning. Essentially, in this case, you don't see on the back end. First of all, we're showing that, okay, it's going to ask a question, and it's going to provide the correct information about Apple. On the back end, what we're assuming in this test case is that the attacker has access to the environment and is now trying to change out the RAG data set. And you're able to see that it's successful at changing out the data set once this occurs. So multiple times asking the same question, demonstrate that it's consistent in its response to what Apple is. And now that we've poisoned the data set, you'll see that it has a different output. And you look at the results, and now we've got a different result that just a little humorous, I feel. So once the baseline is done, then we can start running testing with the AI security tool on top of that. So in terms of the path forward, we're looking at evaluating existing AI deployments against model-centric protection. Do you have control plane enforcement? Is your inference layer protected? Can your architecture handle failures gracefully? The next thing is establish. We want to look at establishing assessment throughout the life cycle of the AI development. And we don't want to just lump it in at the end. If we as a security community can help customers understand the importance of starting early on in the process, then we'll do greater good for the community than just providing a Band-Aid at the end of it all. Training security teams, if we learn more about AI security, we can provide more value to our customers. So if you as vendors of security products understand AI agents and the vulnerabilities better, you can educate, you can be a trusted advisor instead of someone just showing up with a widget to sell. And so, lastly, we've developed this SOC-X framework to enable testing in a way that's scalable, in a way that's repeatable, in a way that can demonstrate the results of the testing, as well as do it in a concurrent manner so that it's fair. Lastly, since it's over, now I can put in a little Terminator blip. But thank you for your time today, and if you have any questions,